While you do that, let me cover Iranian. Is her name Iranian Simone? Is that her name? Arian Simone? So there's a meme floating around Facebook, all right? And the meme says Arian Simone was sued to stop her from funding black women, air quotations. So she took 200 million to Africa. That's the meme. Okay. So some of the meme is correct, some of it is clickbait. We're gonna tackle that. Who is Arian Simone? She is an entrepreneur lady and co-founder of the Fearless Fund. Yep. The lesson's definitely gonna start. So again, if you're ready to hop on to give your opinion about Marcus Garvey, let me know. Arian Simone is an entrepreneur and co-founder of the Fearless Fund. Right? What is the Fearless Fund? That's the question need to be had. What is the Fearless Fund? That's the question. Okay. 11 messages already. Yeah, like. Let me Google real fast. The Fearless Fund. Cause I want to know who's in charge of that. Is she just the face of it? Who is the founder of the Fear Fund? Okay. Let's see what AI. Okay, so it says Arian Simone is the CEO and founding partner of the Fearless Fund, a venture capital firm designed to bridge the funding gap for women of color led businesses. Now, she switched the language, okay? Color led. Now, you know, people of color is everybody basically but white people. Okay, so it was founded in 2019. She built the platform specifically to support under-resourced entrepreneurs. So that was so she switched it up. So that's what it is called now. All right. So she switched it up. Now it's a color-led businesses, right? And it's now specifically I can't even say it. So now it's specifically to support women of color. But originally it was for black women, right? And we're going to talk about the problems with that. So, Erin Simone is the CEO and founding partner. She created the firm to invest in women of color led businesses. It was not now it is, but it was originally for black women. And she's seeking pre seed, C level, or Series A financing. I'm sorry. Ayana Parsons is also a co founder and COO of the Fearless Fund. Simone is a serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, author, and investor with over 17 years of experience. Despite lawsuits, listen. Despite lawsuits in 2023, 2024 aimed at their grants for Black women, Simone has remained committed to the firm's mission, as noted in updates from Inc. and Worth. No. So it was founded in 2019 in Atlanta, Georgia. So she found out the hard way. Arian Simone found out the hard way about race-based language. All right. So look what it's for now. Her mission is used to be for black women specifically and exclusively. Now her mission is to create the firm to invest in women of color-led businesses seeking pre-seed, C level, or Series A financing. Um, right now, it's people of color or under-resourced entrepreneurs. Now you know everybody and their mother is going to benefit from this fund that this woman, look like she's of color, started. Everybody's going to benefit it, but foundational Black American women. So the language got changed. What was the original language? Okay. The Fearless Fund operated a grant program aimed specifically at supporting. This is the original. This is the original agenda and mission. So the Fearless Fund operated a grant program aimed specifically at supporting Black women entrepreneurs, right? Black women entrepreneurs. That switched now. Now it's undeserved women and people of color. Now, as I read earlier, in 2023, a conservative legal organization, conservative, tip, who that is, the red folks, legal organization called the American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER, sued the Fearless Fund, arguing that one of its grant competitions violated federal anti-discrimination law because eligibility was limited to Black women. Now you see why Black women, black is a garbage word when it's left like that. When they don't have foundational there, it's categorized as a race. So Arian Simone have found out in real time that Black is not exclusively, is not a word exclusive to Black women, Black American, foundational Black women. She learned the hard way that when you say Black, that is a race that represents foundational Black American women and women of African, come from Africa and the Caribbean. All right. And because it's a race, you can't do anything specifically for people in that race without being sued by a conservative legal organization called the American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER. I wonder if Ed Blunt is part of that. Let me see. I wonder if Ed Blum. I wonder if Ed Blum. Let me see. Does Ed Blum run? That'd be crazy if he said yes. Oh my God. Hold up. Oh my God. I gotta do the sound effect. This is wild, family. Yep. This is called journalism at play. And at any time, if you guys believe Garvey was good for Black Americans, join the panel and explain why you believe so. Oh my God. All right, so let me share my screen. So TikTokers, you can't see the screen, but the YouTube family can. Okay, it says yes. I mean, this is crazy, family. I just had a quick epiphany. I said, I wonder if Edward, yes, Edward Blum is the president and founder of the American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER, a 501c3 legal advocacy organization established in 2023. That he just started it. Blum leads the group in filing lawsuits challenging race-based policies, programs, and statutes in corporations, nonprofits, and schools. Yo, I really just had an epiphany. I said, I wonder if Ed, I promise you, I thought it was going to say no. Charles Dubin is responsible for this. That thing said, yes, Edward Blum is the president. Oh my God. So this lady was literally sued by Edward Blum to change her rhetoric. So her Fearless Fund operated as a grant program aimed specifically at supporting Black women entrepreneurs, right? Well, Edward Blum started his organization in 2023 and sued this young woman and said, no, you will not do anything for the Black race. You could do something for the Black lineage, but the Black race, no. So the lawsuit became nationally controversial because supporters of the fund argued Black women historically receive extremely low venture capital funding. See, but the black women in her mind is foundational black Americans, black American women, but in reality, black serves as a race category. Okay. So in your mind, you thought it was exclusive to the lineage, to the soul lineage, but in reality, it was all inclusive to recent immigrants. Okay. So Edward Blum, AAER, argued race exclusive grant programs violate equal protection and civil rights principles. This is how we know for a fact that Pan-Africanism is dead because DAED, sorry, I love TikTok. What do you say? TikTok workhouse, clubhouse, whatever Tariq be saying. Um, this how we know is DEAD because all of their programs are for the race, right? People from Africa, the Caribbean, America. So that's a race-based effort. So they won't get off the floor on anything they do. Um, so she was sued for funding black women. And when I say black women, just you go that just equates to immigrants, Afro-African immigrants, Afro-African immigrants. All right. So legal issues specifically centered around race restricted eligibility. Now, there is no evidence that Arian Simone personally took $200 million like the meme suggests, right? That's kind of clickbait. But so Arian Simone and her business partner and her supporters argued if Black American women face a specific historical wealth gap tied to U.S. slavery and discrimination, then resources raised in the name of helping Black women should remain specifically focused on that population. But Edward Blum said, yeah, but Black women ain't just foundational Black women. That's also people from Africa and the Caribbean. So this is broad diaspora framing, right? So they argue. So Ed Blum said, nah, Black women without foundational there is a broad racial term that's all inclusive to everyone of African ancestry. So this is why they're shooting them down. So what happens is, so the argument is that the DNC, they go out there and do create programs for quote unquote black people or black Americans, and knowing it's going to get shut down by someone like Edward Blum. Yeah, I wouldn't even put it past that the DNC told Edward Blum, hey, come up with this AAER. So when we do stuff for black Americans, it's shot down because black Americans don't mean black Americans. It means immigrants. So I wouldn't be surprised if the DNC told them that, hey, can y'all set this up so it could be shot down? Y'all can shoot it down. So we could say, hey, we tried, but see, you can't do everything for, I mean, you can't do anything for black Americans specifically. So we got to lift all tides. You know, we got to lift all tides. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the finesse. So I asked AI, how could she got around the racial black class, black women, black anybody, to do something for foundation black Americans, but without using the racial classification black. So AI said, well, she could have created lineage specific funds. This is the exact response of AI. It said that she wanted to do something for black American women. Don't use the racial term black. That has become equivalent to immigrant in America. It said she should have created lineage specific funds, a dedicated fund explicitly targeting black women descended from US slavery with transparent criteria and measurable outcomes, right? And then I said, well, what if she wanted to do something for the diaspora and Black Americans? How she should have gone about that? And it said, well, instead of merging everything under broad Black, you see the problem with Black by itself, Black American, Black people, Black men. No, no, that's a co opted term that is hijacked for immigrants. So it said, instead of using Black, right? She could maintain one initiative for Black American foundational lineage economic gaps and separate initiatives for African or Caribbean investment. See, that will reduce confusion about priorities. So you see, you have to separate. You have to look. This woman who's not even champion delineation is forced to delineate Black Americans from immigrants. She's forced to. If she want to do something for Black Americans and those of the diaspora, those from Africa, she's forced to delineate us. She can't put us in the same box. Or Ed Blum is coming with the AER. Okay. So guess what? It says, and when she divides, when she delineates Black Americans from immigrants of African ancestry, she should use disaggregated reporting. Family, I'm not kidding. AI is using our language. It's saying this is the answer. This ain't divisive, xenophobic, or HATA. This is the answer. It says that she can track by disaggregating the reporting, she can track who receives funding by ethnicity, national background, geography, and social economic outcomes. Okay. So that would address concerns about the broad racial aggregation. So aggregation means to put everybody, bring everybody together. This aggregation to separate everybody. So you can't use aggregated terms to do anything for Black Americans or immigrants of African ancestry. You have to use disaggregated terms. So what we're doing is the answer. So then it said from there, she could build institutional pipelines specifically tied to historical exclusion. That's us. That's the soul lineage. So programs that she could have did could focus on descendants of red line communities, descendants of Jim Crow regions. This is called disaggregated data. This is called delineating. Women from historically underfunded Black American communities, HBCU pipelines, Black American business districts, etc. So there's no widely recognized public evidence showing that Arian Simone led some massive transformative $200 million to develop projects across Africa. That seems like clickbait. So questions that could be asked is, what is grant money, venture capital, assets under management, investment commitments, partnerships? Who controlled the money? What countries? What measurable outcomes occurred? That's for people who is looking to investigate where the money's at. Okay. So on the lawsuit itself, Ed Blum, when he sued her for using race-based terms like Black to 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 single out, you're gonna do something for Black people. Edward Blum under AER said, no, you're not. You got to use delineated terms. So anybody who's opposed delineation, you're done. We're showing you programs that was designed to address racially Black people were shot down by Edward Blum. We heard of it, and this is one of them. I'm interested to see what other. Now he started his program in 2023. Outside of the Fearless Fund, which became fearful, what other programs did Edward Blum sue? Yeah, I need to know what other. Uh, okay. So Edward Blum, oof. I didn't even click that. Oh my God. I didn't even click that. Anyway, Edward Blum, through his organizations, the American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER, and Students for Fair Admissions, have sued several organizations, corporations, and universities to challenge race conscious policies, DEI programs, and scholarships. Major targets include Harvard, UNC, and corporations like Southwest Airlines. Damn. Amazon, and Meta. Key lawsuits and targets outside of the Fearless Fund include universities, Students for Fair Admissions. Hold on. Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard. I said Harvard. Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, and Students for Fair Admissions versus University of North Carolina 2023, which resulted in the Supreme Court ruling that race conscious admissions are unlawful. Race conscious admissions are unlawful. Corporate DEI fellowships, lawsuits against Southwest Airlines, Amazon, and Meta regarding diversity hiring initiatives and fellowship programs. Law firms, Perkins Coie and Forrester Forrester were sued over diversity fellowship programs that were designed for underrepresented represented minority groups, scholarships, and organizations. The American Bar Association and McDonald's were sued over scholarships dedicated to specific minority groups. Public government entities, the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Latino and state officials in Minnesota and Alabama over race conscious requirements. These actions generally argue that race exclusive programs violate civil rights law. That's your boy, Edward Blum. Okay. Um, So the Fearless Fund initially defended the program and argued the grant was meant to address severe disparities in venture capital funding. African American women entrepreneurs statistically receive a very small share of venture capital investment, and the program functioned as a form of economic remedy support rather than exclusionary discrimination. That's their argument. But Edward Blum argument is that, ma'am, as long as you use black for anything or African American for anything. These are race based terms. These terms don't target specific people. So I want y'all to hear the argument. Race based terms, black this, black that. If it ain't foundational black American, any other black term, any other African American term, when you use those terms, they do, regardless of how you feel and your intentions, those terms do not target specific people that are African American or Black American. Those terms are race based. That means that they will always unspecifically target everybody of African ancestry. These are not exclusive terms. These are not specific terms. They're unspecific and inclusive terms. That's why they get shot down. Oh, sorry. I love TikTok space. Okay. So the legal issue became whether we just heard, whether race conscious grant programs by private organizations are lawful under federal civil rights law. Eventually, Fearless Fund argued no. Eventually, Fearless Fund agreed to settle the lawsuit in 2024 and ended the challenge grant contest. He got rid of it. Your man Edward Blum got rid of Arian Simone grant challenge contest. So they did not simply sorry, they did not simply convert it into a poverty-based universal program. nor did they publicly announce a replacement program specifically narrowed to lineage-based Black Americans. Instead, these contested race-specific grant competition itself was discontinued as part of this settlement. He ended it. So, from her public statements and branding, Arian Simone and Fearless Fund appear to be operating from a broad racial understanding of Black women, meaning women of African ancestry generally, not specifically descendants of U.S. slavery alone. That is consistent with how many modern institutions use the term Black today. You hear that? So many modern institutions use the word Black today in a unlawful way, according to Edward Blum and the Equal Protection Clause. Okay? So Black today is used as a broad racial umbrella category. This is why it gets shot down. Broad, it's not narrow, it's not specific. Is not used as a lineage specific ethnic category. So the term functions socially as both race and ethnicity simultaneously. So it gets rid of us, even though we are an ethnicity named Black, it gets rid of us because our Blackness is tied to the racial category as well. This is why nothing can get done for us. So in that framework, programs branded for Black people may appear lineage specific to African Americans, Black Americans, while institutions may actually define the category globally and racially. So family, I keep telling you, when you hear the word Black, if it doesn't come from somebody who acknowledges their FBA lineage and their FBA delineated terms, FBA, Adolf Friedman, if it doesn't come from somebody who's publicly delineating, automatically assume Black is equivalent to immigrant. You have to do that. You got to rewire your brain. When you don't hear Black come from a self-acknowledging, delineated person, automatically assume it's coming from it's representing immigrants. All right, you got to do that. You got to rewire your brain. So just to recap, Arian Simone is an entrepreneur and co-founder of the Fearless Fund. The Fearless Fund operated a grant program aimed specifically at supporting Black American women entrepreneurs. Right? You got it? So her Fearless Fund grant program aimed specifically at supporting Black women entrepreneurs. And then out of nowhere, Edward Blum created the AAER. Okay. And he argued that race conscious grant programs by private organizations are unlawful under federal civil rights law. He sued Arian Simone and their Fearless Fund. They settled, he got money, he got a bag from them. They settled in a lawsuit in 2024, 1 year later, and it ended their challenge grant contest. Forced her to leave the wording of this grant contest is for Black women. Now she's running around saying it's for women of color led businesses and under-resourced entrepreneurs. So they made her bow all the way down. So she learned in real time about Black, about the racial word Black. It's a nothing burger. The word African American, it's a nothing burger. She learned in real time that these are nothing burger terms. They mean nothing. So when these people run around talking about these Pan-Africans doing, we're going to do stuff for Black people, shut up. Or be quiet. Sorry, TikTok. You're not about to do anything for Black people because Black people that terminology, African American, is it violates uh, the 14th Amendment. So that's why, family, when you hear of African scholarships, don't they say Nigerian? Don't they say Zimbabwean? You see? So they know when to be African and they know when to be black. When they want something for themselves exclusively, they'll say this is for Nigerians, this is for Ghanaians, and when they want to dip their hand into our resource pool, they'll say they're black, they're African American. They'll check that black box. This is called double dipping, Lena. So the immigrant scholarship, they have access to that, and they have access to anything that is supposedly for black people or African Americans. They have a hand in that as well. That's called double dipping. Black Americans, we got no shot. We got no shot at any African scholarship. Even you folks that think you're African, you Pan Africans that got a DNA test, you cannot use that comical jokes.com DNA test to apply for anything that says Nigerian, any West African country. Your hilarious DNA test will tell you that you're African, that you're West African, you're from Ghana, you're from Mali, you're from Guinea, you're from Nigeria. Well, do me a favor. When you see set asides that are exclusively for Nigerians, Mali, Guinea, these West African countries, take your DNA test there and go and try to get in and see what happens. They're going to scorn you to laughter. Okay. The DNA test is for entertainment purposes only. It's something to look at and laugh. It tells you nothing about yourself in Africa. If your lineage ties to U.S. chattel slavery, you are a foundational Black American. You are an ethnic Black. You are from the soul lineage, the soul line. Okay, you're not taking that DNA test, and you're not getting into a tribe either. So not just an African tribe or scholarship. You're not getting into anything that's indigenous for indigenous people, Native Americans. You ain't getting anything over there either. Okay. That thing has a disclaimer. That test has a dis have a dis that test has a disclaimer. It tells you, don't you dare use this to get in a indigenous tribe. Don't you dare use this for an African scholarship. They're gonna laugh at you, Carrie. You're gonna be laughed to scorn. So TikTokers, the question for you guys are or is Marcus Garvey good for black people? Was he good for black people? If you have an answer to that, hop on and ask to be invited up. I got you. I will invite you up. Okay, so that's for the TikTokers, not the YouTubers, because we already know. TikTokers, the question for you guys are or is was Marcus Garvey good for black people? His overall, you're looking back at his works, his overall everything. Was he good for black Americans? Ethnic black Americans. Now, Arian Simone proves why Arian Simone proves why delineating is necessary. Okay. So Arian Simone started off her Fearless Fund targeting Black American. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm adding. She started her fund targeting Black women. And that picture right there, she looks mighty light. Okay. She's really dark, but I don't know what it is with people putting makeup on themselves to lighten their skin. But she started off her fund, her Fearless Fund, targeting Black women. These are illegals out here just doing the most. Oh, I think that's why I got flagged. Let me say undocumented. Sorry, undocumented. That's probably why they flagged me the first time. Yeah, but Arian Simone started her Fearless Fund to target Black women. After Edward Blum got on her case, she switched her language. Now her fund is for color-led businesses, and so right here now it's for a. Here we go. I'm about to say I can't highlight. Well, y'all see it. Look at my arrow for color-led businesses and for under-resourced entrepreneurs. So Edward Blum made her say uncle and leave the fund that was targeted for Black women, and now she's targeting color-led businesses, and color is basically everybody. And under-resourced entrepreneurs, that's literally everybody. So everybody will benefit from this fund, and Black people will benefit the least from it. That's how it usually goes. When we're not made when we don't prioritize ourselves, when we don't target ourselves, we usually benefit the least from it, even though the origins were targeting um, Black people, quote unquote Black people. So Edward Blum taught her a lesson. He said, no, you can't use that race-based term. You got to delineate. You got to use delineated terms. Or if you're going to include people, it got to be everybody. It can't just be for people of African ancestry. So Edward Blum, to put a stop to her program, he literally created a 501c3 legal advocacy organization in 2023 to stop her and other people. The American Alliance for Equal Rights, AAER. AAE, yeah, AAER. The American Alliance for Equal Rights. He did that for the sole purpose to sue organizations and whoever else, institutions that dare try to target racializing, target people based on race, basically. You said, oh, no, you not. Edward Blum literally created this program to stop organizations, institutions, businesses from targeting or trying to do something specifically based on race. That's why it's important to delineate. We got HR hopping on, I think. Hey, HR.
Oh, hello, FBA. I've seen you. I think I've seen you around. Probably subscribed to you. Either you were on somebody else's panel, or maybe I passed by. Usually, if I see somebody talking about something I just can't stay, I'll go ahead and subscribe real quick. But I'm kind of glad I picked you back up. You were talking about the Fearless Fund, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I do is when I go into different, and have discussions. That's the one thing I always bring up, and you notice. Well, you don't notice, but one thing I notice is that people will almost always justify what Edward Bloom did.
Right.
They will almost always, because now, so you're very familiar with it, I assume. The 1866 Civil Rights Act, the 14th Amendment, all that other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that legislation was created specifically to help Black people. Now, in 2026 or in the 2020s, right, you literally have a white man from a white organization running around.
You gotta say white tea on TikTok.
Oh, sorry, white. Yeah, white tea using that same legislation that was put in place to protect the Black population to now harm the Black population, but target them specifically. He's not doing that with Hispanics. He's not doing that with the Asians. They're not going after what you call it, the CBC Black College Fund, right? That's the next thing they're going after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you tracking that also?
No, that's news. So you said tell me again.
Yeah, so the CBC has a fund set aside specifically for Black people, right? It makes sense because they're the CBC. Right? They don't do a whole lot, but that's the.
Are you saying
the congressional back?
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, they don't do a whole lot, but
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I heard of that.
Yeah,
I definitely heard of that.
So now remember, there are college funds set aside for Asians only, Hispanics only. They got legacy for a lot of the white tea folks, right? He's not attacking any of those. He's just basically going after anything that has anything to do with Black people. Affirmative action. And now, and I'm sure you're very familiar that the majority of the affirmative action people who get it is not Black people. It's going to be the white tea folks, right? Of course. Like women, white tea women specifically. Like they. So yeah, this guy's a problem. My thing is that whenever I tell people about this, when I go, well, because people do this, I call it the. I don't want to have anything on your live. I'll just say I call it the CK question. You probably heard it before, where somebody goes, "What can a white man do today that a Black man can't do in 2026?" Have you ever heard that?
Similar language, but not that specifically.
Yeah, there's always either some non-Black person asking that question.
Yeah.
Or basically, it's a Black person who's
conservative.
Basically, suck it up, asking that question.
Yeah, that's a conservative question.
And I say right now, you have a conservative organization running around doing everything they can to shut down anything that Black people have built to help themselves.
See, but what he's doing is he's exploiting something that wasn't supposed to be there. Because like you said Black and you said specific, and that's the problem. Black isn't specific. So unbeknownst to us, when we use Black in the 60s, pointing to ourselves, because we were like 99.9% of the population who can be considered Black, we didn't know that behind our backs, that even though we were using Black ethnically and as an ethnicity, we didn't know behind our back white people had made Black a race. And to us, we didn't see that as a big issue because, again, we were we made up 99.9% of the population who could be called Black. Now, here's the problem. So now as years went by, and then we have the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, dealing with immigration. Now we start to see, many years afterwards, around 2000, we start to see a large influx of African or Caribbean immigrants who also were thrown into the racial bucket. So now that race thing, what happened was when it's 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed, they said, okay, you're right, Black Americans, race-based or race exclusion is bad. So we're gonna, outlaw race exclusion, right? And race targeting. You're right, Black Americans, that's bad. So they went with that. Now, the whole time we didn't understand that our ethnicity will be lumped into this race bucket that will be shot down when we try to do something for ourselves. So that's the problem. Black and African American has been used as a dual usage. It has a dual usage. It represents an ethnicity and it also represents a race. So it's shot down forever, until perpetuity if we use it at all. So that's why we got hit to the game around 2015 and said, okay, that's cool. So now we got to use delineating terms, right? You can't say Black or African American. Yeah.
It's got to be, yeah, it's got to be lineage, heritage based, and all this other stuff. The thing is that see, this is actually part of the problem I see is that and I was on a discussion the other day, and if somebody else is, I don't want to over talk the discussion or talk too much if somebody else is coming up, but somebody had a problem, and the discussion was why are black people always blaming white people for something? I mean, white people or the government for something that they're experiencing today. Why can't black people just take accountability and fix their own problems, this, that, and the third? And I always say, look, you can, and I always respond by saying, I need you to tell me a point in either North American history since the 1600s or American history all the way up until today that black people have been left alone to prosper and succeed or fail on their own without any interference from anybody.
Right.
And that's why they keep getting blamed. Now, they don't want any blame. They don't want anybody to say anything about that. But, I always talk about the rock epidemic, the 80s, and you know what I'm talking about, right? The 80s and 1990s.
Yeah, yep.
And we already had the start of mass incarceration in the 1970s with the law and order campaigns, right? They implemented the Southern Strategy, law and order. Next thing you know, that was the start of the mass incarceration. It actually started earlier, but that was the initial phase of it. And by the time you get to the 80s and 90s, now you get the rock epidemic, right? In all these black areas or certain black areas. And now that's what you get the increased crime and violence. And next thing you know, now you have the initial phase of what is called of the mass incarceration.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to the 2000s, by the time you get to the 2000s, now you have a solidified, privatized mass incarceration in prison, privatized prison industrial complex.
Yep.
Like it's a business now. So there's incentive to actually put black people put people in prison, but black people specifically. As a matter of fact, black people have actually wised up, and now there's less and less black people going to prison. And and do you know that there are certain states that have lawsuits saying that they're not filling up the prisons?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yes, I do.
About people not going to prison.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, because they need to make the money.
Right.
If they put bodies in there, then then the people the investors lose money. It's a business now.
Right. So now frame that question again that they say, what can about black people, they're conservative.
The CK question. You know who CK is, right?
CK is, oh yeah. You talking about Turning Point USA. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, I call it the CK question.
Okay. Right.
Say his name, so
yeah. Because his name would get you flagged. But go ahead.
Yeah, but that was one of his main questions. Okay. Well, if racism is so bad, you tell me what can a white T person do that a black that a BLK person can't do?
Right.
I'm like, look, you can commit a crime and not be and the entire race is not going to be blamed for it.
Right. So this would be his issue. Well, so this would be his issue. Okay, so I agree with you that when we were never left alone. Matter of fact, the times we were left alone, we created business districts like Black Wall Street and other prosperous people, Madam C.J. Walker, Biddy Mason, and the list goes on. The A.J. Gaston, the Black Titan, we got Reginald Lewis, we got a whole bunch of successful people. We go name on and on and on. But what I also argue, what I add to the pot is when white people were left alone, what did they actually build without government assistance?
Oh, I can't tell you.
Nothing. Right. All of what they are championed for in this country was given to them. You start with the 1860s. Well, first of all, start with slavery, right? That's free labor, and then look at when slavery is coming to a close, at least plantation slavery. You got the 1862 Homestead Act. 270 million acres of land given to white people for no reason, nothing earned, nothing they worked for, nothing hard. And then look, they took that, and then the Great Depression happened because they were a bunch of losers. Now they had bailouts from there. They had the 1933 HOLC, 1934 FHA, and prior to that, they had zoning laws and restrictive covenants to marginalize us, so we couldn't spread our wings and fly and do great. So they kept us overcrowded in small cities, and on top of that, the 1944 GI Bill, which excluded a lot of black, mostly all black veterans from free college and low costing homes. So we've been, and then you could even take it to the beginnings of welfare. Right. So this is all government assistance. Everything I named was government assistance given white people because they kept failing. This is white people as a whole. because they kept failing over and over and over. They kept getting bailouts, government assistance, all the way till today. So, as a matter of fact, all that time we've been excluded from government assistance. So we really never got government assistance. So they gaslight us by saying welfare recipients, and even when they said that, they were the main people in collecting welfare, and we were also excluded from that. Yeah, so Charlie Kirk would have been easy. I'm kind of mad he's up out of here because I was really trying to reach that guy for a debate so I could cook him. Because his talking points are really like barbaric and primitive.
So that when somebody throws out a statistic and it's false, you got to get there. You got to contradict them right there on the spot and force and stay on that until they either until they either say, okay, you know what, I was wrong, or they just drop the whole subject. Now they may not admit that they were wrong, but they're going to get away from that subject.
Right, they're going to change it.
Because, and that's how you know you got them. But I mean, yeah, that's the only thing that I would say that, when people are doing that stuff, you got to stay on them. I saw Steven Crowder going to that black barbershop with those black men, and he made a statement. He said, black people are 12 times more likely to attack white people or whitey people and harm them and perpetuate crimes and commit crimes against them versus the other way around. And that's not true. It really isn't.
Yeah.
And now he said that, but he didn't give a source where he got that from. I looked it up, and because when he said that, I said, okay, that sounds like a lie, which it was. But turns out he took a statistic that actually negatively affects black people, twisted it around, and used it to support his narrative. And those guys didn't challenge him enough.
Yeah, and they have Google right there now. Now that right there, I also researched that, and it turns out that black on black crime and white T on white T crime are very similar in numbers, and also black on white T crime is almost similar as white T on black crime. So I know for a fact he's lying. So like you said, like he can't, he could only get that from the FBI reporting, and that's not there. So they just make up stuff.
Yeah, well, check this out. So the other thing too. This is so you've heard 1350 before. Have you ever heard 60/40?
Okay, the 60/40. I heard 1350. The 60/40. Maybe I'm not familiar with that type of framing.
That from the FBI crime data, right? That 2019 table where they say 50% of the black people taking out 50% of the committing.
Yeah. I already debunked that. They talking about it's really the arrest, right?
So now it's actually true. It's true. It is over 50%.
No, arrest.
Table,
arrest.
It's over 40% for white people.
No. What they argue is 13% population commit 50% of the violence, right? The deletions, which is false. They're talking about arrests. It's not convictions. They talk. Yeah. So I trust me. I've read that up and down the FBI report. That's 100% garbage.
Well, I mean, but the other thing too is they left out the data for their racial group,
right?
And it's actually worse.
They
account for just on that table alone. They account for 70% of the arrests in America. 70%. Did you ever hear him say that?
Nah.
No, that's on the table. Because so it's actually if you compute all the data on the table, it comes up to 70%. Like they actually have the most arrests, and it is broken down by racial groups, by white T, black, Asian, Hispanic, and Native American. Native American have the least, Asians have the second least, but it's white T with the most, and then followed by black people, and then Hispanics.
Okay.
Like that's how it's broken down. They have 70. There is 70% of the arrests just on that table alone. You never heard him say that.
Right.
That's why you got to know all the data and compare and contrast and do a comparative analysis.
Right, but even that number for black people is even smaller. Don't forget when they say black, they're speaking about racially. They're saying all of the black Americans, all of the African immigrants all together. So if you actually disaggregate that number there, it'll shrink for everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, now they're not. They're essentially 60% of the population, but again, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, where it talks about black people at 50% of the violent crimes, they're at 40%. And their excuse is, well, white people are a larger part of the population. Now I just told you that between black people and your racial group, at least if you're Caucasian, that accounts for 90% of the crime in America, but they don't care about that. Right. They don't care that they're part of almost half of the crime.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah,
I said we can talk about this crime, but if you're going to dismiss,
but they're not just saying crime, but
about your racial group, then you're not being honest. It's not even a real conversation.
But be very clear, they're not just saying any old crime. They're saying violent crime. They're saying deletions. They're not saying any old crime. They're saying violent crime, and yeah, the violent crime is where their argument lies.
Well, I mean, according to the Bureau of Justice statistics, it's literally again 50% for black people, 40% for them.
Yeah, but it's not 50% for black people because that's just arrest. Like these people charges be dropped.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to dedicate the next few weeks to looking at this because I want to have the information primarily in my head.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so
some of these discussions.
Right.
I was just in a discussion. Oh man, I was just talking to some Hispanic. It was kind of a mess. Some Hispanic his prompt was basically his comparison he was comparing black people to Hispanics, right? Saying. And basically, he was pointing out all the negative things about black people, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I got it now." It's less for Hispanic people, but the difference is that they're just not targeted as much. If they were targeted as about the same rate as black people, they'd have their numbers would actually be worse.
Yeah. See, but
to the black people.
See, but this is why we don't even do that argument. We don't do the. When I say we, I'm talking about people who identify as foundational Black Americans or ADOS. We don't do the race-based debates. We do lineage-based. And the reason why we do that because you have people who come to this country, Hispanics, Europeans, and even Africans or Caribbean. They come to this country from different backgrounds. Some of them come as evacuees, the earthquake or storm, and they might be very violent in their country. You feel me? So when they come over here, they just continue the violence. Like for example, you said the rock epidemic, right, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Did you know that Jamaicans were responsible for
Jamaican shower pots? I know exactly.
Right. They made up 40% of all of the rock exportation, importation. 40% responsible for that. Right. But
transnational.
Yeah.
Transnational, meaning that it's international. And you
know
what?
Wait, hold on.
The other direction.
But it's my larger point, though. But they would be considered black racially, right? So so it'll appear that Black Americans are responsible for their own crack epidemic. See how that works?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we had nothing to do with that, literally, it was Jamaicans and the CIA, the contraband, and whoever else.
And then stuff coming from Central and South America, especially specifically Colombia, and they were running it through Central America. There was a lot going on there. Oh, yeah. But my thing is that so my only issue is that when we talk about crime, it's just too much hyper focus on black. Look, I'm not saying that the crime is bad. We get all of that. Yeah. But if all you're gonna do is just focus on black people and scream and whine about the statistics when I tell the history of who created those ghettos in the first place, those crime-filled, violent ghettos in the first place, which was the United States government, then it becomes okay now. But you ain't trying to take accountability. I'm like, yes, we are. But what we're not going to do is sit here and leave out the fact that you had a government agency and you had the federal government dumping stuff into a neighborhood that was already resource deprived.
Right.
And now you're telling me now that you got the outcome that you wanted, that you were trying to get, now you're mad about how it turned out. But you're only going to blame the people. You're only going to blame black people, and you ain't going to say nothing about the government. And people do that. This is why I can't have an honest discussion with them. But anyway, I told the Hispanic guy, I said, look, man, when we have these discussions among black people, we can go back and forth, we argue, and right now, we know that black people and Caribbeans and Africans are having issues and problems, but you know what? Hispanics don't even come up.
At all.
When did we ever? And I was telling them, I said that multiple times. I said, look, when we have, I said, because y'all need to take a, you need to, I said, look, dude, when we have these discussions amongst ourselves, you don't even come up. But yet here you are trying to have this discussion. And then after I kept telling him and giving him actual verifiable statistics from legitimate government agencies as to where I got my data from, I said, this is why we can't talk to y'all, because when y'all talk about black people, you don't know what you're talking about. It is mostly non-black people that have the most to say about black people. And when I confront them and give them actual data and then give them the experience and the studies and the research that I've done, it is very clear they don't know what it is they're talking about. It's way too clear to me.
Right.
I ask them, so have you read the Moynihan report? Have you read the Kerner Commission report? What about National Security Council Memorandum 46? Have you read that? And what the policy is about attacking the black communities and attacking the black families? Have you read that at all? What about are you familiar with essentially who was responsible for dumping all of that rock into these black neighborhoods? And what happened there? What about deindustrialization? Oh, I don't know any of that. But you got all this stuff to say about black people.
School to prison pipeline, and all that stuff.
Yeah, school to prison pipeline, deindustrialization. The whole everything to include even welfare, all of that stuff, like everything. And the people with the most to say about black people have no idea. It's mostly non-black people. They have no idea what it is they're talking about. And that's not the first. That's not the first time I've done that too. I actually used to try to. There was a group of Hispanics I used to talk to for a little bit, because the first time I ran into them, they were having a discussion about black people, and I don't know why, but it was just a bunch of Hispanics. I said, guys, I popped up. They did let me come up. I said, guys, I'm listening to y'all. You guys just don't know what it is you're talking about. And I went to their panels for about maybe 6 or 8 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And after a while, I just gave up. I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
They weren't listening.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, because a lot of those folks be conservatives. Like I'm familiar with the arguments, and I identify like who is most likely coming from, like what audience. And once it's coming from conservatives, you do what you want to do, but I really try to argue with them. But like you said, they're so disingenuous that they're very dismissive. I had debated a conservative over here once, and it was just so one sided. I had no fun, and he just very dismissive. When he didn't agree, he just didn't agree. He just dismissed it. Like he had no rebuttal, no stats. And he tried what you're saying. He tried the 13 to 50. I cooked him on that. He tried to compare us to recent immigrants. I cooked him on that. So he really had no angle other than, hey, it's your culture. And he was black, by the way, black American.
So that culture, yeah, that's unfortunate too. That culture argument actually started with the Moynihan report. That's where that comes from, the 1960s. The 1965 Moynihan report, where they talked about this web of pathology among black people and how basically somehow there's something wrong with us inherently, that we're pathological as far as our behavior, and we just basic savage is an uncivilized, right?
Right.
Now, before that, black people were married at an 80% plus rate,
right.
90% in some decades. Had their own neighborhoods that were complete with everything from banks to schools to recreation centers to residential areas to even all of that stuff. Everything you need in order to build a community. That we didn't ask for anything from anybody else. And when we had all of that, and that it happened over and over. I actually wrote a research paper on the legacy of how domestic I'll just spell it out. Domestic Terrorism affected wealth in present day. Like that still affects black people today. Now, look, this is what I know. From 1862 to 1943, there were 48 recorded race massacres, right? These are the ones we know about. There were more, but these are the ones that were highlighted in my research, right?
Yeah.
These are the 48 that I covered, right, specifically. And these are major cities, like these are major towns that could have developed into major cities. Now, had that not happened, what would that wealth look like today?
Right.
It'd be worth trillions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, everybody's like, well, what's stopping black people from being successful today? Everything that was destroyed, 50, 60, 70 years ago, that's what's stopping us.
Right.
Because if you don't destroy that, then it's still in existence. All of those communities are still intact. All of those families are still intact. There's nobody dumping rock into black neighborhoods, because what do we need that for? We look at that and we would reject it because we see it as destroying the society. And there's even summary documentaries about who created the ghettos. All you got to do is look up who created the ghettos, United States government, ghettos, whatever. There's 3 or 4 documentaries that pop up. It explains how the United States government created a policy instead of leaving black people where they had their land and weren't getting the investment. They said, look, we're gonna go ahead and conduct eminent domain on this land. We're gonna call it slums. And we're gonna take all you black people and corral you into these urban areas, these urban centers that we built for you, these projects, which is where the name comes from, by the way. Project so and so. Project, they gave it project, I don't know, some name, project like I don't know, like Project Cabrini Green or something like that. They would name these housing projects, right? That's where that phrase comes from, the projects, right? Or at least part of it. And they corralled these people into these areas specifically, and then they implemented that whole thing with the welfare and all this other stuff. And then you had the deindustrialization, you had the chemical warfare. Like all of these things could get together, created this confluence of events to actually destroy what black people had built. And then the nail in the coffin was taking away taking away black schools and black education and black educators. At one point, black people were basically educated very well by black people.
Yeah.
We were seeing 10 to 15% of the population in college. They would come back and educate everybody else, right?
Right.
They were getting the best educations at that time. There were some black schools that were doing. There was one black school, I want to say Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. They named it after that gentleman, Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School. It was doing so well that that the white T folks got jealous and actually closed the school down.
Wow.
They closed it down and dispersed the student body and spread them out among the schools across the county, because that school was outdoing all the schools in the county. So jealousy, insecurity, and just, we can't have this group doing better than us. And it was a black school, black principals, all of that stuff. The '64 Civil Rights Act actually took all of that away. And they tried to call it progress, but honestly, that actually hurt black people.
What's that?
The Civil Rights Act, in the sense of not in the sense of actually making sure that black people had rights, but in the sense of all the black institutions and these black neighborhoods that actually existed still and had some relative prosperity. That was kind of like the nail in the coffin right there. Especially the Highway Act. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah, like, you talking about eminent domain,
Highway Act,
urban renewal.
Yeah, urban renewal. Yeah. James Baldwin. So they called it James Baldwin. They spoke about this. He said they framed it as urban renewal, but James Baldwin called it Negro removal.
Yeah,
which is what they were doing.
Yeah,
they were taking black neighborhoods that still had everything going on. Black schools, banks, residential areas, dentists, hospitals, and all this other stuff. And they're like, we don't need that anymore. What you're going to do is we're going to break all of this stuff up. Yeah. And now you have to go to our stuff. Right. We're gonna make sure y'all don't have this stuff anymore. That actually weakened black people. When all people were trying to do.
So I think that needs to be highlighted, because when people say integration and damage does, I think they gotta add more context. It wasn't integration, like you said. Like, they actually dismantled our flourishing neighborhoods, and that forced us to go with what was available. So it wasn't like we dropped what we were doing. It's that we ain't have it no more. It was either burnt down or highways ran through it, urban renewal, eminent domain, and we were forced out of that into their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've been doing their version. They've been doing eminent domain decades earlier than that. Dulles Airport is an example of that. Central Park is an example. So you know about the Washington Dulles Airport in Washington D.C., right?
No,
that used to be a black neighborhood. Where that airport is right now.
That used to be a black neighborhood. Really? Wow.
Yep. Look it up. The Pentagon, where the Pentagon sits, there was a nice black notherhood over there in that area. Where Dulles Airport sits, there was a nice black neighborhood over there in that area. Same thing with Central Park. That happened all over the country. There's some other places that are kind of famous right now that used to be black neighborhoods. They did this was actually pretty common with military bases too. Redstone Arsenal, Alabama used to be a black neighborhood. And not even really a black neighborhood, but mostly a black-owned area where black people did sharecropping.
Yeah,
it was kind of an urban area, right? Not urban, but I mean a rural area. But they cleared all the black families out to make room for a military base. Now, they couldn't put that base anywhere in Alabama.
Yeah,
and I understand the location, but they now all of these sharecroppers got kicked out of their areas with no compensation, and they built that base. That happened in the 1940s. Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. I just read a book where a woman was talking about her grandparents and where they own acres and acres and acres of land. They don't have that land in their family anymore, but mainly it's because they got kicked off.
Mm.
But they kicked off like 500 families, and the majority of them were tenant farmers and sharecroppers.
Wow.
So think about that. So that land, they didn't lose that land. That land was taken from them.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the evidence of the stuff that's so when people go, well, what's going on with black people today? I'm like, y'all can't y'all can't. Nobody's going to leave black people alone to
Right.
succeed or fail on their own. It's just never
Yeah,
happened.
that's crazy, right? They take it from us, burn it down, then gaslight, and then exclude us, and set laws, and then gaslight us by saying, "Hey, why aren't y'all?" Yeah, these some evil people, man.
I expect that out of non-black people, but I hate it when black people do it. It's generally the conservatives, but every now and then, some people who do it. I'm not going to say that it's all over the conservatives. It's just some people who are just trying to suck up and get money. But
Yeah, it's
so
mainly
it's just
conservatives, and when people when if you're not a conservative and you say it, you're pretty much not sold on. So, like, if a non-conservative say it, they're not really sold on the idea like a conservative. Like, if they get debunked that they might eject or abort mission, a conservative is not going to do that. They're
yeah.
going to, yeah, 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 because it's yeah, because it's their religion.
Like, black people still trying to build, but people like Edward Bloom is getting in the way. They're like, "Who's Edward Bloom?" I'm like, "See, you don't even keeping up with like you know who he is. I know who he is."
Yeah,
Almost every time when I go up on a panel, there's maybe one or two people that might know who Edward Bloom is and what he's doing. But most people don't know. But these are the same people that be like, "Well, gee, I don't. Yeah, for oh my gosh, I just don't understand why black people just can't get it together. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you have all the rights. I mean, we done everything we can to help you out. No, you haven't.
yeah.
You ain't got out the way. You
These
ain't got out
folks
the way."
are like when they say that, like they're definitely just gas. They're not serious. They're gaslighting. They're being facetious, and you know, just got to know that part. Like these guys ain't serious when they say that. They're gaslighting us. They're trying to get their rage baiting. They're race baiting. They're trying to get a specific reaction.
And spreading that lie.
Yeah,
And that basically nobody else gets any blame except black people. I hate when I hear somebody go, "Well, it's just a black culture." I mean, that's just a culture. Black people didn't wake up one day and say, "You know what? We want to break up our family." Nobody did that. Nobody did
yeah,
that.
at all.
We didn't wake up and go, "You know what? We don't want to have families anymore. What we're going to do now is just just run around, stand on the corner, smoking smoking illegal substances, and basically not going to school and not trying to
Yeah,
work."
actually, that's actually their argument. Their argument is integration is what destroyed black culture, and we were better off segregated during. So basically, like they're saying, like we were better off marginalized, Jim Crow, stripped of rights. Uh, their argument is that we function better that way, and which is another gaslighting lie.
So I always frame segregation like this. There really wasn't anything wrong with segregation. The issues were how black people was treated. Because if you were separate already anyway, and everybody already had their own stuff, and nobody was crossing over. And remember, white tea folks could cross over into black neighborhoods anytime they wanted to, because that's what they were doing.
Yeah, see, but that's part of segregation.
To their neighborhoods, the only thing you could do was work or go to. I mean, basically go there to work, and that was it. But you had to leave. You weren't going to live there. I mean,
Right,
you were there to serve them and be exploited, or whatever. But you
right.
weren't going to live in their area.
That's why Malcolm X argued the difference between separation and segregation. So segregation is everything you just said. So we would have never been successful under segregation because segregation is exactly what you just said. Like we are limited in our movement. There's white tea access to things, and there's black exclusion. There for resources and things like that. So that's all under segregation. Like that wouldn't be under a separation, right? If they had agreed to a separation, then that's not really the case. Like, cause separation would have demanded them to leave us be.
But that's what I'm saying. They had the upper hand. I'm like, yeah, I mean, essentially separation was already in place. They had what they wanted, but again, you had corrupt and racist police officers going into black neighborhoods, tearing stuff up, and just cracking heads and harming black people. Um, and then you had and there's some other stuff going on too. But I mean, still, so when they argue, well, it was better. I'm like, better for who?
Right.
And what was going on? And there was nothing wrong with the separation, but if you're not going to leave black people alone, then that's not helping. That's not helping black people either. Just because we're separated from you, and you still get to come over and screw with us whenever you feel like, or tear up our stuff,
right?
And ain't nobody punishing you. That's not helpful. You got to completely leave black people alone. But hey, so I did want to ask you something. There's this thing going around. People. So I see you got FBA News and I don't know what is it, FBA News and
Updates.
Yeah, FBA News and Updates. Yeah. So there are people, technically, I would fall on the FBA. I don't say it a lot. I don't deny it, but I don't say it a lot only because most people don't know about it. Right. But there are people when they'll speak about FBA in a negative way.
And that's why I'm here on TikTok to clean it up. Right. Yeah.
Because when I think about hate girl, I'm thinking about the triple K.
Right, right. Yeah. Like, but like they always try to, they always delineating. Like, so what happens is, like you gotta get the details from them. Okay, what do you consider hate? And like you said, when you say hate, we're talking hate. Well, you can't say hate. I'm sorry, you can't say that on TikTok. You gotta spell it out. So what they consider HATE. I mean, heck, on TikTok, sometimes they do experience just that. You got some people who actually, some people are. But I don't represent that. So that's why I'm on TikTok to clean it up and represent FBA correctly in the right way. Because some people are doing it for clicks and views and some money, and that's not where it's supposed to be. I'm on TikTok trying to set the example, set the standard of how to really communicate and signal boost talking points under the banner FBA without being toxic, without name calling, without all the messy stuff.
Here you, because it's not like I'm breaking up, or is that you?
Yeah. Might have been me.
So the term is actually starting to make its way into academic circles. Like when you look at it's shown up in mainstream media, not a lot, but it's popping up. I saw a whole article where somebody actually explained what it was, and they didn't do a bad job with it. There were a couple of things that were wrong here and there. I was like, okay, well, that's a pretty good start. But there are articles popping up now about it.
Okay.
Because it came up as a part of discussion of something, and then somebody finally wrote like a few articles about it, and then it came across MSNBC or something like that. Like I was like, okay, this is not a bad article. They were trying to just give a simple, and they took most of the information from Tariq, the Tariq Nasheed's website.
Okay.
And they mentioned him and a few other people, but him mostly. So, but yeah, that's another thing. I mean, it's just, look, man, it's rough being black up in here.
Yeah.
Oh. What do you call it? I don't, what do you call it? Well, I do judge him. I mean, I don't like that black people kind of get frustrated and tired of having to deal with racism. And then they get to the point where they basically, well, look, I'm just going to switch sides. I can't beat them, so I'm going to join them, right?
Right. That's what they do.
Stand there, or at least I try to understand it. I don't like that they're doing it, but I know why it happens, right? And then the ones who don't do it, the ones who aren't openly, basically, demonizing, basically the Candace Owens, the Larry Elders,
Tommy Soul,
those, the Brandon Tatums and all this other stuff. The ones who don't do that, they just hate themselves. Basically, they
HATE.
like themselves.
Yeah,
like being black. Look, those dudes are just tired, man. They're tired. They're just tired. They're like, look, man, I'm just a black guy out here trying to live my life. And every time, everywhere I go, I'm getting demonized. People are messing with me. People hate me for no damn reason. I get
Hate. Hate.
uh, people crapping on me all day long. I ain't doing nothing to nobody. I'm just trying to live my life. I'm a decent black guy. I walk in the room, and next thing you know, everybody stops and looking at me, clutching the purses and stuff like that. And I ain't done nothing, and there's no indication I'm gonna do anything. But meanwhile, I'm getting crapped on all day. Like there are people that are just tired, man.
Yeah, I get it, but look, crapping and doing that, like, yeah, you might be inside the group that knows you, but when you walk the street, when you go grocery shopping, those white tee people don't know you're with the in crowd. You dig? If you're not like a familiar face, like you got Candace Owens, she's more familiar face, but Larry Elder, like, and Thomas Sowell, like, these faces are not as popular as Candace Owens. So when they maneuver through white tee supremacy, they're going to face some white tee supremacy, right? Some of that stuff, because the average white tee supremacist don't know who they are, can't recognize them. The Brandon Tatles, nobody know what this fool is, and when he if he going grocery shopping, taking a jog,
Yeah.
man, small demographic.
You get Nick Sanchez, he was screaming, "Oh, racism!" I'm like, dude, you just spent the last 15 years screaming ain't no such thing as racism.
Right, right, yeah.
I mean, it's way too inconsistent. Um,
Yeah, I had looked up your information on like the 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 Pentagon, the airports, and all that type of stuff. So it seemed like people is liking the conversation, but unfortunately, I got to come to a close because I wasn't going to be on TikTok at all, but I'm glad I did. I hopped on, but I wasn't trying to be on too late because I want to eat. I got to eat. Yeah, yeah. But I appreciate you hopping on because you had mentioned some things like even the Monahan report. I looked that up, and it's a couple things I'm gonna throw in my bag. So good luck for that. Yeah, man. Appreciate.
probably use the next few weeks to actually read the morning here. I read it periodically, but I'm like really delve into it this time. Same thing with the County Commission report. Same thing with that NSC 46. The benign neglect memo that was
Yeah.
written in 1971. Like I want to commit most of that stuff to memory, or at least be very familiar with it.
Right, right.
Because when people talking crap, I'm like, look, man, I know this better than you. Like I
Right,
don't.
right.
But anyway, I'll go. I know you got to shut down, so I'll catch you on the next one, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Absolutely. Thanks for letting me up. We'll catch you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, TikTokers. Thank you very much. Brother HR, definitely great information. I actually wasn't familiar with some of those things, wrote them down, and I just making my bag even more more bigger. Now I got a bigger bag.
Absolutely. All right, man. You
Yeah.
take care. Okay. We'll catch you on the next one.
So even the current report, like in the current report, I read some of that some years ago, but I'm not as well versed on that as I should. And what I noticed about the Monahan report is that came at a convenient time, because I'm a dates guy. That came in 1965. That's right after the civil rights movement. So that is kind of like the white tee pattern. Every time something is seen to be exclusive for us, like the 1865, 1866, 1868, those things, there seems to be some at that time, uh, you had scientific racism emerge after we were freed and got some rights. So every time something is seen to be given towards us, something negative will pop up, some negative propaganda. Are you familiar with Soul City? Are you familiar with Soul City, HR? So even with Soul City, as the chat know, conservative media, like every time something is seen to be given towards um, Black Americans, negative propaganda usually follows it to discourage and justify it not happening. And look who doesn't defend us: the Cameron media, the same Karen media who would defend illegals. Or I shouldn't say that because I'm gonna get flagged. Or sorry, TikTok. I meant undocumented people.
Yeah. Okay, that's why black folks are tired, man. But I mean, we got to keep plugging away. I mean, it's we're the only ones doing it, man. We're the last line of defense. The first and last line of defense. Ain't nobody else doing it. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Catch you later, brother.
Yes, sir. All right, TikTok. We out of here. Peace. All right. So TikTok was successful. Met a good brother who seems really good. Um, yeah, I gotta eat. I'm starving. Good brother. So I'm gonna catch up on the Monahan report, the Pentagon part. I know the Pentagon is part of eminent domain. Yeah, so we're gonna definitely cook, man. The Monahan report, the Kerner Commission report, the Kerner report. So yeah, I'm gonna um I haven't delved in that too much recently because it wasn't part of like what I debate, but maybe I could throw that at some tethers. Maybe I could throw it at some tethers. But like he said, like it's really hard to explain this. Like I don't really want to waste time with a conservative. Like they are the most delusional people on earth. They're like worse than a tether. So that's why when a tether becomes conservative, like Jamaican Dream, like they're the worst people ever. Like damn, you a tether and you're conservative. Oh, okay. So it's really no point in talking to them about these topics other than for pure entertainment, but nothing to be like take them seriously on. Okay, so I'm just formatting my research. I researched the current commission. I got some stuff there, and what I do normally, so I'm formatting it. I'm getting it all cleaned up, and then what I do is I study this when I'm not live. So I'm gonna watch some of the playoffs, and while watching playoffs, I'm gonna be reading this. I'm because like normally when I watch TV, even football, when I watch sports, it'd be on mute because I want to get even like boxing, be on mute because I want to get stuff done. I'm like always multitask, so much stuff to read and research. I don't have the luxury to listen to something like sports. I put it on mute, and I will do my studies because ain't enough. It's not enough time in the day to do a lot of this research. So I gotta take advantage. So if I do entertain, if I'm entertaining, and I know people be annoyed when people invite me places to a cousin house or a friend house, I'm gonna eventually pull out my phone and start reading, catch up on reading. Or a lot of times I always have my laptop with me, so I usually just go into my laptop. DJ Focus can attest to that. At some point, I go into my laptop and I start going into my research. You dig? Because genuinely don't like to be in the don't know section. Like people talking about something and I don't know what they talking about. So I don't like that feeling. So I usually try to catch up on. I remember they used to talk boxing big time in DJ Focus barbershop, his dad barbershop. And I just was lost. Then guess what, family? I just went back and started to watch all of the classic boxing matches, like as much as possible. And I didn't caught up to these guys. Like I'm telling you, I'm one of those people, man. And so fast, I caught up so fast, man. Like I became like the go-to guy on opinions in boxing, and that's what unbiased Ron. It was unbiased sports before unbiased Ron, but this is for Sean. A groupie of mine, a hater. Sean, before it was unbiased sports, it was the boxing wizard. Okay, so you think you know my history? You don't. So before it was unbiased sports, it was the boxing wizard. Now I'm gonna tell you why I became unbiased sports because I no longer want to just talk boxing. I want to talk about football, basketball, and everything else, and bowling. So I said, okay, let me expand it to different sports. So that's how I became unbiased sports. All right. Then it removed from unbiased sports, unbiased Ron, because I stopped talking sports. I started being more serious, similar to Tariq Nasheed. Okay. Same thing he did. He used to clown around, be serious here and there. And then he just said, you know what? It's no more time to clown around. He's going to take life seriously, take black politics, black people seriously 24/7. I made the same commitment without knowing really who he was. Just some people have those awakening moments like Malcolm X. Some of us just get tired of playing around and just be like, yeah, I want to be serious 100%. So went from boxing wizard, unbiased sports to unbiased Ron, and now you have FBA News and Updates. Family, have a great one. Be one. Share, subscribe, like, dollar sign, unbiased